great to be back in Oaxaca. This is one of my favorite cities in Mexico, and it's often called a cultural and culinary capital. And I'm actually here during Day of the Dead to show you Oaxaca at its most vibrant. I will actually show you all the top things to do when visiting at any time of the year and share some really fun things that happened during my stay. I will also reveal a few amazing hidden gems that I haven't seen in any of the top videos for Oaxaca. What's important to know is that Oaxaca is both the name of a city and a state, so it's a bit like New York, New York. I will be focusing on the city first and then tell you what you can do in the region. What I really like about exploring this city is that, I guess you could say, it's more well preserved than some other cities in Mexico, and a lot of that has to do with the history. So back in the colonial days, Spain didn't give as much attention to this region because there wasn't any silver or other precious minerals to dig up. Also, because Oaxaca State is so mountainous, there wasn't quite as much agriculture that was possible here. So that kind of kept development in check. And if you walk through the old town here, you'll see that there's very few modern buildings. Actually, most of the buildings are ground level only, historical buildings, just the way it always was. There are a couple of smaller museums worth checking out in Oaxaca. The Museo de las Culturas is housed in a convent and has a nice collection of artifacts from the pre-Columbian and colonial times. Behind this museum is the Ethnobotanical Garden, which shows all sorts of plant species from Oaxaca State. It includes an impressive cacti garden with many rows of tall organ pipe cacti. You can only see the gardens as part of a brief tour, where you could hear some pretty interesting facts. The Oaxaca region is also famed for its colorful textile making, and you can get a good impression of the craft at the small textile museum, which is free to enter. Besides the museums, it's definitely worth going on a walking tour to get a better understanding of the city's history. There are many different groups doing free walking tours and food tours. Of course, you can also explore by yourself and discover some of the colorful neighborhoods of Oaxaca. Right now I'm in Yalatlaco, which is a neighborhood that's, I guess, only a 15-minute walk from the old center, and yet it feels like a little world of its own. Right now it's Day of the Dead, so it's super extra decorated, but even in normal times it is like an open-air art gallery. It's amazing. There's so much street art, so many murals here, and this area feels like kind of a local neighborhood that kind of became a thing. So there are many little cafes and cute little shops here. Oaxaca has several great markets. Firstly, at Mercado Benito Juarez, you'll find mostly wares and souvenirs for sale. The other market across the street I find a bit more interesting. You enter the 20th of November market through the Hall of Smoke, which is where there are loads of barbecue stalls. And it's a great market to try some authentic dishes. And one thing you can try here are grasshoppers and other interesting insects that you can eat. If you want to have a little practice round for when the apocalypse comes, you can eat bugs here. And actually they are meant to be very tasty. I still haven't eaten grasshoppers ever, so somehow it just never happened, even though you can have them in Bangkok and other places. So let me give them a try here. I think now's the time.
¿De dónde vienes?
Holanda.
Holanda, eres holandés.
Ah, ¿y es sin salsa o...?
Limón y sal está bien porque tengo con chile, pero no te di con chile.
Alright, so I got myself a little snack bag of grasshoppers. I add some lime to it and some salt. They look a bit weird. Here you go. But they're pretty tasty. Here. Very good. Good snacks. Okay, if bugs gross you out, don't worry. The rest of that market is all just really nice, normal food. But I wanted to show you this. There is a third market to check out, which is a huge and quite chaotic one, but it's great for observing the local life. This is more like a wholesale market, basically. It's huge, lots of sellers here. This is clearly where, you know, if you want to buy groceries for your entire week, that's the place to go. They're selling everything here. They have flowers, got your bamboo. They're selling like loads and loads of marigolds at this market right now because of Day of the Dead. Those are the orange flowers that they use for all of the decorations. It's nuts, just stacks and stacks and stacks of them. So yeah, this is one of those markets where honestly I almost never end up buying something unless it's like a bit of fruit for on the way. But it's always cool to walk around and do some people watching and see what is going on. Okay, so a few tips for Day of the Dead. Should you be in Oaxaca during this time? Even though it's called Day of the Dead, it doesn't just take place on a single day. Right, it's not even Day of the Dead yet. It's October 29th. But I walked out of my hostel and already there's a massive parade. There are parades happening all over the city and on many different dates. This makes it really cool to be in Oaxaca because you can just randomly bump into another festivity. But it's not just parades. Day of the Dead is about remembering loved ones who have passed away. So many locals will spend time at the cemeteries. There's also a friendly atmosphere in the streets where there are often special decorations. Sometimes there are stages with little performances that you can see. But yeah, there are a lot of parades too. For about a week, there's seemingly always one happening. Oaxaca is often mentioned as the place to see Day of the Dead. Now, it's so popular that you really do need to book your hotel at least about 6 months in advance. Rest assured, it's also celebrated in many other places of Mexico, but it's pretty cool to witness it here. There are numerous things you can do around Oaxaca, but the first place you should really consider going is here, the ruins of Monte Alban. So this is the largest archaeological site in the region, so it's highly worth coming here. It is huge. There's so many temple ruins, and also you get wonderful views of the valleys around here. Getting to Monte Alban is not too difficult. You could get a taxi or a tourist shuttle bus service that goes all day, or you could book a tour. I have to say there is barely any information at the site, and apart from a small museum, there isn't really much context provided at all, so a guide can be worth it. And then there is Hierba el Agua, which some people refer to as waterfalls, but they're not. They are several streams that leave calcium deposits, and so they form these wonderful rock formations. I should mention that this place is popular on Instagram. Very popular on Instagram. Okay, let me try to actually give an honest opinion here. Should Hierba el Agua be like top of the list of things to see in Oaxaca? Maybe not. It's important to know that this is very far outside of the city. It will take 2 hours at least. And once you get here, all the video I shot today was in the morning before it gets busy. As the day progresses, it gets really busy here. Objectively, of course, the petrified waterfalls are very beautiful, but it also feels a lot like a tourist trap here. This is included in a tour you're doing anyway, and there's other things on that tour. Great, go here. But if you have limited time in Oaxaca, then maybe this shouldn't be like the top priority at least. If you do go, I recommend leaving the city in the early morning, either catch a bus or go on a tour that leaves around 7 a.m. That way you will still get to beat the crowds. In a town on the outskirts of Oaxaca, you can see something very old. Something ancient that has seen civilizations rise and fall. In a town not far from Oaxaca, you'll find a remarkable sight. It's called the Tree of Tule. And this may be one of the biggest trees in the world, depending on how you measure it. It's not the tallest tree in the world, that would probably be a sequoia, but it is the stoutest, which is an interesting adjective. The stoutest tree, meaning it is very wide. I believe it is 16 meters across, and it is gorgeous. It is not entirely clear how old this tree is, but some estimates say it must be 2,000 years old. 2,000 years. And for a while they thought that maybe all of these tree trunks were different trees that kind of grew together, but then they did some DNA tests and they confirmed this is all one tree. I don't know if it's possible to convey on video what a big chunker this is, what a big, beautiful organism. It is insane. I've never seen anything like this. So the second widest tree is a sequoia, apparently, but this is a Montezuma cypress. It's pretty tall. It's actually really tall. It lords over this little town. But it's especially the width that made this tree so famous. So I guess this is the sort of site where you can go and visit it and you look at it and you think, that's a big tree. All right, goodbye. Or you could stop for a moment and just be in awe of what you're seeing. The most famous dish in Oaxaca is the mole, which is a word with indigenous origins that simply means sauce. So guacamole, sauce from avocados, except that is a very simple sauce, and the moles here are incredibly complex. Mole negro is the most famous kind, and it can have up to 30 different ingredients. All kinds of different spices, sometimes a hint of chocolate even. It is really delicious. There are 7 different kinds of moles, and you can try them all in Oaxaca. So here we have mole negro, which may look a little bit like the black tar monster in Star Trek that killed Tasha Yar, dated reference, but I assure you it is really delicious. Of course, there's also all your usual Mexican street food and delicious tacos for you to dig into here. And besides that, there is a local dessert you can try, in particular at this little square. The flavor that I have here is tuna, which is not tuna, because that would be very weird. This is prickly pear. Let's see what it's like. Really nice. I'm gonna have an immediate second spoon. That is good. I'm on my way to the mountains. I'm gonna go to the joint villages, the pueblos mancomunicados, which have banded together to allow sustainable ecotourism to take place. So the hiking here is really fantastic. The ecology is really interesting because you got your pine trees here. We're kind of higher up in the mountains. You kind of got that temperate vibe, but also there's these constant reminders that you are at a very low latitude. Look at these agave plants, I guess they are. It's taller than I am. It must be around 2.5, 3 meters tall. And then you've got all these granite rocks covered in moss and these gnarly trees and everything. It's like a little fantasy forest.
You can go on multi-day treks here, which are organized by various local companies, but you can also try to do a day hike here on your own. The villages are all super friendly, and this one here clearly has a big obsession with succulents.
Some of the villages have also added cool like little attractions like footbridges across ravines or zip lines. Like there's one zip line going all the way across this valley. If you're here on a Sunday, then it's worth going to this town, Localula, which has a big market going on. This is not a tourist market, this is just where everyone goes to buy their goods. And many people from the villages, indigenous people wearing beautiful, colorful clothes, also show up here. So you can have a look around, and it's really fascinating to see everything that is going on. At the end of the market, there is also a big hall where people will have a big Sunday barbecue.
Finally, I want to show you this Day of the Dead festivity, which was unlike any other that I've witnessed. It's in a village 40 minutes outside of the city. Arriving at 10 p.m. here, not much was happening, and I worried that I dragged the travel buddy all the way here for nothing. But then this guy started clearing a path for the arriving brass band. The night here starts with an elaborate play, with characters including a politician, a priest, and a grim reaper. A lot of it was satirical and was a bit lost on this gringo, but it was fascinating to watch anyway. And then the party starts. Months are spent preparing these costumes, which are all related to death and laden with beads and bells and mirrors. Those who are in this mosh pit of sorts are officially part of the Muerteada, as the celebration is called. The Muerteada parades along the streets with the partiers going from place to place and going inside the houses where they get booze and food from the locals. By this point, it was after midnight, and we asked how long the party lasts. Until 1 we heard, only later realizing this meant 1 p.m. the next day. They really do party hard in Mexico. This was definitely the wildest Day of the Dead event I've seen. After many days of sightseeing, hiking, and Day of the Dead festivities, I was happy to slow down. As I mentioned, Oaxaca is a state, and it's worth the drive across the mountains to reach the coast. Thanks to a brand new road, this now only takes about 3 hours. The beach towns here are much less commercialized than in the Yucatan. Puerto Escondido is the main destination on the coast, but I also love the quieter Mazunte. If you want to know more about Oaxaca City, the rest of Oaxaca, or check out some detailed itineraries, then don't miss the links in the description.